wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB. Be yourself, see yourself. This is the show, my people. Belize our hopes up to needless reason. Nobody feel left out. Is the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love, respect, unselfishness and cooperation. That's how we need to build a strong nation. We are the people to make the changes. We are the changes. WB. And all the things that will feel happen like I got blue skies. And nothing that people get victimized. Let's work together for better. We got to unite. Belize, yeah. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB. Get up, make every day count. Don't waste it, people. Do your part, play around, get where you need to. You can tune in from work or in your vehicle. If you got a problem, pick up the phone. Why wait? It's a time calling. It's a show with no matter even if you're at home. Just call in. WB. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB. Be yourself, see yourself. This is the show, my people. Belize our hopes so to needless reason. Nobody feel left out. Is the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love, respect, unselfishness and cooperation. That's how we need to build a strong nation. We are the people to make the changes. We are the changes. WB. And all the things that will feel happen like I got blue skies. And nothing that people get victimized. Let's work together for better. We got to unite. Belize, yeah. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB.
Good morning, Belize. Welcome to the WB Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. We're off to a little bit of a late start. We apologize for that, but we're on. And we want to welcome you to the house of Creme Radio and XTV. I'm Mose, Hyde, and it's time for Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. Wherever you are this morning, we hope you have great health, your energy level is high, vibrations positive, and we hope you just have time and space for the roadway. You know, in our substantial kind of way. We want you to spend quality time. As well, more importantly, we want you to be able to participate, as this is what we do. We have a big conversation weekday mornings. We call it the WB. This is where you get up, and we want you to guard your ducks in a row so you can do that part. But we're not ready for that as yet. We want to welcome everybody to the house, of course, as we mentioned earlier. Everybody that's listening, watching, everybody on our apps, everybody that's getting us via our social media streams or simulcast coverage. We're going to start off with a little bit of news. Of course, that's the routine. First things first, we've got to tell you what the weather is going to look like. And for that, we turn to the National Meteorological Service. We've got forecaster Tariq Matthews to tell us what kind of weather we can expect today.
Good morning, Belize. Fair weather conditions prevail The 24-hour forecast calls for sunny skies with a few cloudy spells today and partly cloudy tonight. Shower activity will be isolated with a few more mostly over southern coastal and offshore areas today. The maximum temperatures for today will reach 84 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 86 inland and 72 up in the hills. The low temperatures for tonight will be around 75 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 68 inland and 63 up in the hills. The winds from the open sea will be from the north at 10 to 20 knots and the sea conditions will be choppy to moderate. A high tide will occur this morning at 7 o'clock, a low tide this afternoon at 12:57, another high tide this evening at 6:50, and another low tide early tomorrow morning at 1:55. The sun rose this morning at 6:04 and will set this evening at 5:16. The moon will set this afternoon at 2:16 and will rise early tomorrow morning at 2:59. The outlook for Wednesday and Wednesday night is for mainly fair weather conditions. Showers will be isolated except for a few more mainly along central and southern coastal areas Wednesday night. In a tropical weather outlook for the North Atlantic, the Caribbean Sea and the Gulf of Mexico, tropical cyclone formation is not expected during the next 48 hours. For more details on our forecast products, please visit our website at nms.gov.bz. With that, we have this morning's forecast from the Belize National Met Service.
The first private radio since 1989, Creme FM presents the news. Informative, accurate, current information, local, regional, and international news, weather and sports. And now, the news.
There were two fatal road traffic accidents reported on Saturday in two different parts of the country. The first occurred out west on the George Price Highway after two men were injured when the driver of a motorcycle lost control and crashed. Roy Martinez later succumbed to his injuries. ACP Gilberto Romero shared more details.
Okay, on Saturday, the 23rd of November 2024, police responded to a fatal road traffic accident on the George Price Highway. Upon arrival, they saw a motorcycle with damages and also seen were two male persons on the road with injuries. They were escorted to the hospital. They were identified as Roy Martinez and Kenny Garcia. Thereafter, Roy Martinez succumbed to his injuries and Kenny Garcia is in a stable condition. The information is that they were both on the motorcycle when they crashed, causing the fatal injuries to Martinez and the injuries to Garcia.
What did they crash into? Or?
It appears that they lost control of the motorcycle.
The second occurred in Orange Walk when Fabio Khan was fatally struck while he walked alongside the highway. The driver did not stop to render assistance. ACP Gilberto Romero shared more details.
Okay, on Saturday, the 24th day of November, police responded to a fatal road traffic accident at Orange Walk. Upon arrival, they saw the lifeless body of a male person with severe injuries. He was taken for treatment where he succumbed to his injuries. Information is that he was on the highway when he was knocked down by a vehicle that did not stop. He was identified as Fabio Khan of Orange Walk. Investigation into this matter continues.
Two people are reported to have been injured following a shooting incident Sunday night just before 7:30 in Libertad, Corozal. According to reports, a husband and wife received leg and hip injuries following the shooting. Both were transported for medical treatment not long after. Crime scene personnel recovered 14 expended 9mm shell cases at the scene. On Monday, ACP Gilberto Romero gave the media an update.
Police responded to a shooting incident at Libertad Village. Upon the arrival, they received information that two persons had been taken to the hospital for treatment. Police visited the hospital where they found Edwin Gomez and Reina Tobar with gunshot injuries. Edwin Gomez reported he was at home when he heard his dogs barking. He came out to make checks. That is when he heard several gunshots and realized he was shot. The person followed him and fired more shots, and also injured was his Kamala wife, Reina Tobar. We have one person in custody in regards to this shooting. They both remain in stable condition at the hospital.
What's the motive as to this point?
We do not have a motive. Follow-ups are being done at this time.
Police have arrested and charged 33-year-old Abraham Levi Shai for the murder of 18-year-old Jonathan Josue Leonardo, which occurred on Wednesday night. Shai is being accused of fatally shooting Leonardo outside of an establishment in Rowan Creek, Cayo, after two had an argument inside. Shai was arraigned in the Belmopan Magistrate Court on Monday morning. A Toyota Hilux was stolen Sunday night around 9:30 at the Blackberry Estate in Boom, Belize District. According to Jody Adolphus, he had just arrived home and was about to park when three armed men approached the vehicle and attacked him, then stole his vehicle. ACP Gilberto Romero said the vehicle was recovered by police, but the suspects managed to get away.
Jody Adolphus reported he was driving a Toyota Hilux vehicle in the Blackberry area of Boom when he was approached by three male persons who were armed with firearms. They attacked him and hit him with one of the firearms and proceeded to steal the Toyota Hilux. Police responded to the report and came across the Toyota Hilux on the Boom Road, where the vehicle was intercepted. The vehicle came to a stop and the three male occupants ran away from the vehicle and made good their escape.
That brings to the end all morning news. We will take ourselves a small break. When we come back on the other side, it's time to get into conversation. We want to get you live here on Creme Radio and XTV. We'll be right back.
The first private radio in Belize since 1989. The news. Informative, accurate, current information, local, regional, and international news, weather and sports.
All right, welcome back to the WB Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. Mose Hyde in the house with you on this Tuesday morning. And of course, we are now open for the business of conversation, which means that you get to call in. Our telephone number for you to link with us is at 280-5848. That's the live line for you to participate in the conversation. We love when you are available and able and willing to jump in and offer up your thoughts and views and concerns. This is where it is done, right here inside Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. Right up until 9 o'clock this morning, we have our first call. Krem, good morning, WB. Krem, good morning, WB. Okay, thought we had this matter here resolved. Apparently we have not. 1 second, caller. We have a slight issue. All right. All right. So let's try that again, please, caller, because it seems we're still having this issue with the phone, which we thought was resolved, and it's returned. This is Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes, and let's try this call again. Krem, good morning, WB.
Morning, Mr. Mose.
Yes, good morning.
Good to hear you this morning.
What's going on, brother?
Yeah, one of our contribution this morning.
Yeah, go ahead.
It has come to understanding that men may have died in the performance of their duties with their lady. Sometimes this can be caused by certain pills. These pills should preferably be taken with consultation of a doctor.
What you talk about, Brad? Why you start out my show to read from a script to talk about the dangers of ED medications such as Viagra and stuff like that? Why you start off the show with that?
Well, have you heard about these cases?
If I've not heard about the cases, I have heard that the rumors about people who might have cause problems to themselves because of taking the medication. That I've heard that, but I don't know why this morning that is the burning. I don't usually question what people talk about. It's just very bizarre that WB begin with and call the be like they give medical advice on the dangers of Viagra. Really, that's what you're doing. Like, do you know somebody who has died because of Viagra? I know they ask if you call a name, but they ask if you know somebody that has died because of Viagra.
Yeah, I come across many cases.
Have you personally used Viagra?
No, sir, but I could
Yes, I'm
give
not
some
sure.
advice.
Yes, I'm not sure.
But I could give some advice, no?
Some advice. Okay, so you're not sure if you use it, but you still could give the advice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I could continue?
So your advice. I don't want you to read something from you to read a script, man. Just give me the sense of what what is your advice? You're advising men to not take the medication because it could cause them to die.
No. That is not the advice.
What is the advice?
Maybe if I continue, maybe
Oh yeah.
you will understand.
But you're the reader. Go finish this.
This won't take more than a minute.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, about half a pill is recommended 3 times a week for some men.
Half a pill for 3 times a week. Okay, sir.
In the event a man should collapse, his partner should perform CPR and call 911. CPR may be performed as follows. Turn patient on back and do chest compression. Some people do not like to do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. It has come to light that chest compressions are sufficient. One time,
I doubt very much, sir, that the the person in the bed with the man is going to be uncomfortable in doing mouth to mouth. I think that is the nature of intimacy. That wouldn't be a case where they would be uncomfortable. So your advice is for them to do CPR. Okay, sir. Anything else you'll add?
yeah.
Is that
One
it?
time when I was about 13 or 14 years old, I found a boy about 9 or 10 years old, unconscious, almost dead in the sea. I took him to the beach, placed him on his belly and pressed in his ribs about 60 times a minute, and after a minute, he recuperated. Well, that's a contribution I'm making this morning, no? I hope it might help some people.
Okay. Okay, my brother. I don't know what to say to that. To be honest with you, I really don't know what to say to that. Oh boy, this phone. Hello. Good morning.
Hello?
Good morning.
Ready?
Good morning. Could you lower your
Yes, I'll turn it down.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll turn it off. Well, I'm calling about this the conference the climate conference in Azerbaijan.
Yes.
What would you say is the true consequence, or what does that conference, what is the result of that conference? What is it telling us? What is it really telling us? What is the lesson what we are really to take away from what transpired at the conference? The contention over financing.
I don't know what I can't say what's yours. I could tell you that mine's, which maybe was how I felt before. I feel the conference, it just serves as confirmation to some extent for me that mankind is now only dealing with the bills and not dealing with the issue that people have now decided that, well, it will be business as usual, and we want give on our coppers and make on shut up and left alone, because ultimately the consequences of climate change will be disproportionately felt by the poor people on the planet. I think somebody wrote yesterday, I read, said the rich people of the earth will be responsible for killing about 1 billion poor people in the next 50 years.
Well, yes, but I agree with you 100%, but I'll put it in another way. Would you say that the conference illustrates that the people who have managed to achieve the highest level of development have decided to give up on the planet?
I think the thing about climate change is that some parts of the planet are going to be better suited for it and less impacted, and it happens to be mostly where the rich countries are. They are going to experience certain things. Obviously, the east coast of the US will have problems, but because they are in the temperate zone as described, or you have places in Russia that are now becoming more tropical, and they will be able to expand agriculture. So that's kind of like the thing that happens. So yeah, I feel that these countries have decided that, you know what, they're on their own. So I would agree with what you're saying, that that's the way, that's a more succinct way of describing what this COP says to the planet, no?
And don't the people who went begging also, aren't they also making a statement that they don't understand the problem in its scientific form, just as the other crowd? All they want is a little money here, get money, and that will solve the problem.
Yeah. So
the two sides of this equation have the problem, have the situation all wrong, right? Would you agree?
In my view, I don't know if you heard my conversation yesterday on the issue, but I referenced a conversation I had a couple weeks ago. I had lunch with Dr. Leslie, who is retired from the Climate Change Center, and I was telling him, my view of these COPs is that, it's really a thing that has lost its way, and I don't have any optimism at all that mankind is able to avoid the worst consequences of what is happening with the climate. And he commented to me, he said, a part of the problem is that countries, and I told him about the OSIS and all that. He said a part of the problem is that they have decided to make the issue be about money, and have really just gone down that, and that's the limit of their advocacy. So at one point, and you still have pockets of people, pockets of energy that understands that a fight has to be brought. It has to be. It's not just about saying, "Give me some money in my hand." We have abandoned the pressure that we were starting to build up on these rich countries to say, "Listen, we have to figure out what is described." I hear the term because all this. I use the term like say developing countries. Like how you could create leverage for somehow impact the policies and positions of the rich countries, but we have decided all we want is their money.
When you produce steel, just let's take steel, which is used in cars, it's used in vehicles, it's used in build your house, buildings. Steel, you would agree that steel is an important component of the modern civilization, right?
Yeah. It's a...
To produce 1 million tons of steel, based on a calculation given the other day in the media, I would say that you're using about, at a minimum, you're producing at a minimum 2 million tons of carbon dioxide, carbon emissions. That's what you're producing as a consequence of that steel production. Okay, so what is the most expensive car that you have seen on Venetian roads? And how many you would estimate are in the country?
I would say well, I think somebody had a Tesla truck. I don't know what's the cost of that. I didn't see it personally, but pictures of it were put on Facebook. I would say maybe the Land Cruisers are the most expensive vehicle that Belize.
And what's the going value of that?
I think you look at depending upon where all they have. I say roughly 150. I'd say $150,000.
US.
Well, Belize. That's what I've never gone to buy one, but that's what I've heard.
So you consider that the most expensive vehicle on the Belizean road?
That I see regularly, yes.
That you see regularly?
Yeah.
But what do you see not regularly that's the most expensive?
Like I said, I've not seen the Tesla truck, but I've seen images of it that somebody actually has a Tesla truck in Belize. I would say that must have been around to land here in Belize around $250,000. But I don't see a lot of those.
Right.
I've not seen one personally.
So let us say, do we need a $250,000 vehicle in Belize? You see, Mose, the reason I'm using this sequence of questions is that when we buy the products from the north, we are also participating in the production of the carbon. Now, there are things we need and there are things we want. So I am saying that it's time to decide we will only buy what we need, not what we want.
Yeah.
Because even the need purchases carry an emission burden with them, which to date nobody has paid for. To date, I'm saying.
Yeah.
So we in the developing world cannot just be hollering and screaming, that's what I thought, that's what I thought, that's what I thought, and not examine to what extent we are contributing to it, and may have contributed in the past. Granted, as colonies, we may not have had a choice. But as a free people, since 81 and the freedom movement of the 20th century began with the independence of India in 1947. We have 75 years now of the most recent independence process to examine our contributions to the mess on the planet. We have to do that because they are not going to do it for us. I listened to a discussion and the person made the point that $42 trillion were processed in the economy during the coronavirus, during the pandemic. 42 trillion. Of that 42 trillion, 65% went to the upper crust, 1%, 5% crust of wealthy people. They are not even 10% of the world population, but they took in 65 million of that 65% of that 42 trillion. So in other words, they took in $28 trillion. Now, in that discussion, they didn't clarify if they are including the borrowed money in that 42 trillion. But the person was making the point in the disparity, the inequality of distribution. Now, we have the traditional aristocracy, and then we have a new aristocracy. The new aristocracy in the Caribbean is what I call the intellectualocracy. The lawyers, media moguls, doctors, accountants, real estate. They are a new aristocracy. They were always there, a few of them, but they did not hold a dominant position in the society. But in the as a consequence of independence, they have moved to take their independence, and they did it exactly as the previous aristocracy did it. They built their wealth on slave labor. If we are going to be truthful, Mose, we have to examine ourselves. Because that crowd out there are not going to do it. They are going to take money now to try and move to Mars. That's not going to work. And they know that. So in the interim, they are going to build secluded retreats, fortresses, bunker down. It's just, that's going to add to the mess.
Yeah.
We in the court, which people don't like to use the terminology for themselves anymore, but I'm going to use it what they call the third world, the world that's undeveloped, that has been misdeveloped, that world has problems it has to correct. Why is it more? What is it that brings down the fertility rate in societies? What has happened in the last 75 years that shows what can contribute significantly to a reduction in population growth by birth?
So insofar as something that is in the environment, what I have read when it comes to the reduction in population growth rate in these developed countries, they have blamed urbanization. That once people moved out of the rural and moved off the farms and moved into urban space, they were less likely to have a lot of kids. So there was a big part of it in what I've read is the result of behavioral change. No, I'm sure that there are other things which have
the chemicals and stuff, but that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
So when you an excellent example is Korea. After the Civil War of ended in 1954, there were over 1 million Korean men dead, and a whole lot of Korean women were left to become the heads of households and survive. And the Korean government, the South Korean government, had to figure out a way to get those women into the workforce quick, fast, and hurry. And they did that. So urbanization is generally accompanied by industrialized work, right?
Yeah.
Work in the tertiary and the secondary sectors. The secondary industrial sector, the tertiary, the services sector. And the women, the Koreans knew they had to get the women into the workforce if they were to survive as a nation. So when women enter the workforce, they cannot, basic production and working in the industrial workforce, you end up having to limit your basic production because the cost is one of the difference. The demands on time, labor, cost, all of these things enter. And so humans move automatically and make a decision. But in the case of China, they pass laws. But in Korea, for example, they didn't pass a law, but the women realized they were left with no head of household, no male head of household. They had to get out and work. So they couldn't afford any more babies than the ones they had. And so urbanization together with industrialization and together with the service sector economy and all of that, moving women into more education creates that. But the first world didn't want to move the third world into that level of development. They wanted to impose the third world in the rural economy where their children are their bank, they live hand to mouth, they live at the behest and favor of the hacienda owner, all of that. And those are the things that have caused a massive population production in the rural areas as part of Latin America, but this is not only Latin America, as compared with the urbanized areas of those countries and the centers of the world that are considered generally urbanized, even though they have agricultural sectors like France, United Kingdom, and so on. And then that population is the population that is on the move. That is the population that is trapped in war, that's trapped in refugee status, that's trapped in a huge planetary social mess. And we are not examining those things. The First World has made a decision, and it started making a decision some time ago, that they are going to limit population by, for example, Canada passing the bestiality law, where you can have intercourse, sexual intercourse with any animal. Evidently, that is an attempt to move people away from sexual interaction with human beings, which will produce babies, and move them into another sphere which will produce sickness. That will produce sickness. We've just gone through one. We know what that is like. So, the problem, then they decided another way was to shift the population toward unisex sexual interaction. What we term as homosexuality, to shift the population as much as they could into that direction. But that is not producing the results they want either. So now, come to the third, there are others in between, but then we better just kill off, because while we may be getting a number of less babies, we're not getting all the reduction we need, we still have a population that's too large for the planet under certain circumstances to sustain, and so the decision has been to eradicate a part of the population. And I say that objectively.
Well, I think one of the clarifications, well, not clarification, but one of the things that I'd like to just interject there is that they are concerned about the number of people that the planet has to deal with in poor countries and in the poor sections of their own populations, but they don't share that same view about themselves. So you have a growing movement within coming out of the tech class out of Silicon Valley, where they are subscribing to the view that the educated, wealthy white people need to make more babies. Elon Musk, for example, is one of the strong advocates for that. So they see their population numbers as a crisis. So you have countries like say Japan is one of the countries that they report on, which actually has a negative rate at this point in time. It's a huge economic crisis not to be having enough children who are going to want the things that you produce. So they see that as a problem. They see that who can pay for them. Yeah, who can pay for them. But they also now look at they know what the consequences are going to be, and one of the foremost consequences of climate change over the next 25 years is going to be a migration crisis, because especially around the tropics, it will become inhabitable. And
it's not only humans are migrating. This is what they are not confronting. That the migration is not taking place only in the human population. Animals, other animals, that human animals are migrating, especially in the marine environment. So the movement of tropical fish into the northern waters, which are warming, is taking place at a rate that the northern marine life is under threat. I noticed that in Baku, I heard whether they discussed it or not, nothing about the problem of glaciers. And they were in the region where that should have been discussed. Right there, I think it's Kazakhstan, their glaciers are melting at a phenomenal rate. So you can't, we in quotes third world, have to stop now and decide whether the people and the leadership, and if the leadership is not prepared to do the right thing, then the people are going to have to set the leadership aside if we are to survive. If we are to survive. Because you cannot have an understanding and correction of a problem if you don't understand it. If you don't understand it, then you can't correct it. To correct the problem, you must understand the problem. The problem is not one of money. The problem is one of a total shift in the climate structure of the planet. This is not the first time this has happened. This has happened prior to the rise of humans, long prior to the rise of humans. We've had ice ages, all of this has happened before. And we live in an age that we have acquired control of not all of the data of those past experiences, but substantial amount of the data of those past experiences. And what we don't have, we are able to model and guess. And we are not doing that. Let's take Belize. So they 42 trillion is that 42 trillion part of that borrowed money or is that earned money? Because the 17 trillion that was borrowed for the pandemic, of which the U.S. used 13 trillion, that hasn't been paid for yet. That hasn't been paid for yet.
The U.S. used 13 out of the 17 trillion?
Out of the 17 trillion. And, but I don't know, in this discussion the other day, they didn't state whether that 42 trillion, the figures they are giving are right, those. But I don't know whether they consider that 42 trillion to include the 17 trillion or whether none of that is specified, but the person wasn't dealing with the specifics, he was dealing with the inequality of distribution. But we cannot operate now anymore at a 1 plus 2 level, 3 plus 4, get a little bit here, and get a quota of $100. That is going to kill this entire bunch of 400,000 persons. We are disposable. Let's accept that. Would you agree that in their minds the people of this land are disposable? Yes or no?
I think it's a bit more. It's a bit more diabolical than just thinking of us as disposable. I think that they would want to dispose of us. So there is intent, not only a feeling that, yeah.
I mean that the intent, remember I said that the first solution to the population crisis on the planet is extermination. You see, Mose, what is frightening at that way? They have now shifted from 1.5, they are going up. But you can't make the planet a little hotter. You can't. Because to make the planet a little hotter is going to make it, you're going to cook. You literally continental, for the mainland area. We need to decide whether we are going to keep burning the land for cattle. That is causing erosion. That is going to cause the height of the land to reduce and make us more vulnerable to flooding. All these things are things that we really need to have discussion, understanding. It can't be in pockets anymore. Because, you see, Mo, I am 76, so again, I am past participation in the public arena, let's say, of political leadership or so. For me, that conference, I was going to walk out the first day. That was not going to hang around, man. No. You get up and then you sit down now to figure your survival. Because you are dealing with people who, it's not that they are particularly with you, in their position, you will do the same thing. The same thing. As I just pointed out, if there's a vehicle on the roads of this country that costs $500,000 or more, does it belong there in a country facing the crisis that we are facing? I say no. No. We must not do what Taiwan did. We must buy only what we need, not what we want. Taiwan didn't buy luxuries more from the time of the Civil War almost I was here up until the beginning of the 1980s. They didn't. They didn't. They built their reserve. That's what they did. They worked 2 shifts. They ran their factories 2 shifts around the clock, 24/752 in the early days. They slept. This is what has been told to me by people who participated at that time in the process. Built small offices in both sides. The one bat came in, slept in the day, that bat went to work at night, the other bat came and slept. They were people with their backs against the wall. And we are in the same situation, are people with our backs against the wall. We can survive. I know that we can. But we will not survive without massive effort, discipline, and a clear objective of what we have to do. The first thing is to save the land. As long as the erosion continues, the needs will get smaller and smaller, and the coastal, the land will die, we'll lose the land. So do we want to get there? We have to make up our minds, man. I don't see what happened in Baku as the end of the world. Not at all. However, it's for us to take meaning from that.
I feel that it's the end of the version of the world that we know, that we have experienced.
Because we are arrayed against human brothers that have made gross and terrible errors. We have participated in it. They have made gross and this is not the first time they are confronting this. But the first time they confronted it, they had a new world at their disposal, the Americans. When Europe crossed the Atlantic North, their forests were gone. All the fish in their rivers were almost gone. The coastline and fishing beds were virtually overfished. All of that had happened. So when they crossed that, they lost almost 30 plus. They put it at 25, but I am saying between 25 and 35 of the European population died in the plague. Not to mention the death that came from the roving, just like Haiti, exactly what has happened in Haiti happened in Europe. Exactly, no different. Roving bands of militants, discharged soldiers who were told live off the land. It's written in their history. They know all about it. So we have to, do you feel most personally, do you personally feel that if we make an effort, we can come through and survive? You are 20 odd years younger than I am. So I know at 76 that we can survive, but I don't know that you know.
I have to believe in our resilience because we would not be here without it. I am the descendant of people who survived against very significant odds, but I do know that we have to start to be mentally prepared for the inevitable hardships that will be the norm.
Exactly, and we must be prepared to share the hardship.
Because
it cannot be a set of hardships that will not affect those 19 or 29 or whatever number of people sit in the assembly or go to the chamber. No, this must be a cake comes to the home and everybody gets a piece, no matter how small the piece of cake you will get with. We must make up our minds that if no other community on the planet lives in a community of love and care and concern for each other, we will do it. We will do it. And we can start this Sunday right here. If you make a pudding in your home, take a piece for the neighbor. Try it. That's the world of my childhood, where everything of that nature was shared. Let's try it. Let's try it. We will show that world out there cannot be allowed to write our demise. It can't be allowed to write it. Anyway, Mose, bye-bye.
Thank you very much. This is WUB, Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. That's quite a movement from our first caller with Viagra, and then we went head on into the climate crisis that now confronts the planet. And unlike a pandemic, which had, even at its worst, you knew at some point in time you would get on top of it because either one way or the other there would be herd immunization. It's just a matter of how many of us would have to pass before we reach there. The climate crisis is not a short-term visitor. And so we must, just as the planet will be altered, or the planet's climate will be altered, our attitude and our consciousness not only has to be altered to match it, but has to be altered even before the worst of it comes, that we have what it takes to exist, and more importantly our offsprings and our generations to come. We have a part to play in this relay of response and change. To not do that is to fail our offsprings or descendants who are to come, to fail them at the worst possible time. So I appreciate that Ms. Corey called on that, because it is definitely, I think, the most existential. It's the overused word, just means that threat to our existence, right? Threat to how we are. It's an existential threat. And I think it's the most significant one. And based on the outcome of where things are, and based on the last round of people getting together from around the world to see how they can navigate and confront and deal with what is happening, I don't have anything unless we are saved by some yet to be developed technology. And to some extent, there are those who are betting on that scientists will figure it out. We go to 2 Cent Scam, sponsored by Fort Point Security. And then we take our first break of the morning. We'll be right back.
You're watching WB and this is XTV, right? And I saw the look and the look and the look on the water bottle. Cause I try to figure out now how one frog get in here without nobody say. Either nobody will pay attention or it must control the water system. Me no know. But I still a look to see how it get in here. Let's go find out the people in 2 cents. We all see in our 5-gallon buckle, we see water, we see one frog in it. You as a person with another job there, how you think that would get in there? How that get in there without nobody see?
Boss, I'll be honest, you have to think about the company where produce the water, right? They produce a lot of water.
Yeah.
Right? So 1 5-gallon, they're like so much 0.000% of all the water. Yeah, man, like needle in a haystack.
Yeah, right. Really
So I know to say it would have been easy for miss, but that's not something where always happen or anything like that. So
yeah.
and I said that's something where I just overlooked because I mean the frog in itself, but that was a small percentage compared to all the amount of water where they produce. So that's something you kind of have to take into consideration too. Yeah, man, for real.
Morning, sir.
Morning.
I'm going around trying to figure out how the frog end up in the 5-gallon without nobody see until the customer buy it. Like I try to figure out how it get in there.
Anything left open thing going in, brother. Anyone say open something going in there. Yeah.
That's your 2 cents.
That's not my 2 cents.
Out about how nobody never see this frog in this water. I know that the company make millions of water, let's be real. Battles of water. But somebody must have from a seat. Because they are not in small for the seat. So if you may have it, you sell it. What do you have to say? Are you see?
Bro, that's tough one, OJ. But I'll let me notice from the picture that the bottle actually still sealed.
Yes.
So
yes.
it's kind of hard for you kind of counterfeit the seal, right?
Yes.
So I figure it have to happen at the factory, whichever factory when they do the bottling itself. When they wash out the bottle, maybe the frog made the hide in it, but
yeah,
but maybe.
Yeah, you're 2 cents.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to give me a 2 cent pound. What you think? How that end up there?
Well, that must somebody must have to put that in.
You really believe somebody put it there?
Right.
Someone not do that. Let's be real.
Well, how it get in there? Even the company could make by mistake and get in there.
But company not do that. Let's be real.
Well, how you get in there?
That's the 2 cent question of the day. That's why I try to find out people 2 cents.
No, well, it's okay. Talk about your TV. Well, I'm not going to do my research and I'll get back to you.
That one good 2 cents.
All right, welcome back to the WB Wake Up Believes Morning Vibes. Mose Hyde hosting on this Tuesday morning, 26 November 2024. And as always, we are open for conversation. You can link us. Our telephone number is at 280-5848. That's the live line for you to participate in the conversation. We want to get you on board. Hear your thoughts, your views, your concerns this morning. Had an extended conversation, I should say, input coming from Ms. Sandra Coe on the matter of climate change. We spoke about it yesterday. One of the things that, you know, the headline coming out of this conference where people from all around the world go to try to see how you could make decisions as it relates to climate change. And every year they do it. Last couple of years, well, I think, we are on call. Let me take the call. Krem, good morning, WB.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yes.
Yesterday we had some problems with
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I would have been a powerful board. That's why I have climate change. I would have said, if that were me, the wrong thing, I would have taken the money, said, give away the money, and put it into restore it, put it into a saving up towards national natural disaster, mainly infrastructure. Not touch the money at all. One bridge work with the money, can't complete. I have to go to Taiwan for big money, we got it. You know what I called for yesterday? I'm not verified, to confirm that spending towards the rewarding of nation-state business constitution will continue. But to me, observing, while the intent was to shift from the legal stature, how it is today, to me it was of the state of belief when we become a legal territory, whether Mose or country lawfully demarcated or legally approved border. You understand? You see, as I went against it, I don't know if I did it on this, on your show before, but I don't know how to in legal matters, whether Mose. But for now, I know that what our agreement. But for ever since and even before, I kept, and yes, and keep alluding or mentioning the phrase that for the sake of tranquility or a tranquil society believes. You said, I would have said either public or private, the word prejudice of nation's constitution that appear in nation's constitution, chapter 2, under fundamental rights and freedoms. That word, to me, should have already been defined from the setup, from the writing of the constitution. You see, already defined. You see, was it, yes, we are entitled to freedom of conscience, meaning that we got sense to know what is right or wrong, or conduct of fairness, which we don't have, apparently. You see, yes. And what freedom of conscience, expression, assembly, and association. Prejudice proclaims and declares, my friend, that one must not convert such freedom to his advantage against others. We do that constantly, causing injuries on each other. We offend each other, we harm each other, we hurt, we cause bodily and mental pain. Enjoy your tea there. Yes, you see, look how we harm one's reputation. We call our name and we put on it, we bring down each other. Very unfair. You see. Then we offend each other. We harm each other. We cause bodily injury to each other. Look at the vehicle have it. People who work on the line now home. The study, we have 6 farms now where we never had before. And the horns they come and the mufflers and the loud music at residency. Or 10 o'clock the night you go home and you slam your door, you not close it and then press a racket, you wake me up. I'm afraid to tell you that it will affect me because we have been enemies as neighbors. So you know how much time we buy. You see, look at the lights at night that immediately obscures your vision outside a first clip. You see darkness, big bright light on your face. You see, but because prejudice was not legally defined, my brother, was not legally defined, you see, yet they are, what are the theme for this year? Proud. What? Proud and free. That's our kind of proudness, my brother. You see, to me, the net independence, I will be the flag for life because I talk how I sense things, how I see things. Then get independence, but upon achieving it was created to dependence. We did a bit. And we got a lot of money. We must stay. And then we have just a selected few. That's why we never part with it today because education was not a priority. You see. And today the hard way, my friend. Look at the road conditions and the high volume of accidents. We don't care. We don't care. It's a pity poorly believe need help. And me, who want to help, they refuse me. Anyway, thanks very much, brother. Take care.
All right, brother. We have to go to break because we're kind of behind a bit on break. So we'll take a break and come back. All right, welcome back. This is WB Wake Up Believes Morning Vibes. Mose Hyde in the house on this Tuesday morning, inviting your participation. Telephone number is 280-5848. That is a live line for you to get into the conversation. This morning, I will wait for you to link up. Besides one call that was on another matter, in another realm, which that happens, a part of having an open line. We've kind of just, as we did yesterday, in the aftermath of what is dubbed the climate deal on financing from the big rich countries for the less rich, the underdeveloped, the poor, the misdeveloped, all those terms, third world, any term you want to use. Countries we not got that kind of money, small, vulnerable places where that the first figure lick, first in harm's way to climate changing. We've spent and had, committed ourselves through the assistance of the 5 C's, and Dr. Leslie, you noticed that we used to go to the conference and we would report live in the WUB. And so we kind of, have a level of consciousness when it comes to what we deal with, and try, I think fundamentally one of the most important tasks we have that will make people kind of just understand what we talk about and understand why that's something where they should be concerned about how your country they deal with this reality, especially now that it's becoming abundantly clear that this ship not to stay away from this storm, meaning the world not to do what it need for do, for make we get the best case scenario, meaning make the temperature rise, not go further than a certain extra degrees Celsius, because based on the science, the implications for countries like Belize, coastal community, the tropical zone on the planet, we are take some lick. And there's people hard for really sometimes understand how this affect them. Because part of it have to do with misinformation, and part of it got to do with I would say like so flawed propaganda campaign. So the whole idea of Hollywood movies version of climate change that will make things be so dramatic, so instant that you think that the way mean that one day we're gonna get up and we are in the snow, and interestingly enough, just to show you how bizarre the weather they get, it actually snowed in Saudi Arabia, I think. About a month ago. Go and check that. Like it actually snowed. Saudi Arabia. The thing is that happen like that. That how the whole changing of the climate now. When you talk about changing of the climate, you must understand when they talk about the earth one good. Because, like somebody will quickly point out, and some people fall victim to this logic, the climate always changed. The earth has always been changing its climate. Absolutely. In the history of planet Earth, scientists have been able to show that it was once an ice ball, it was once a volcanic pit, it was once with oxygen, without oxygen, then with oxygen. Like planet Earth, change your clothes. Enough. But there are no processes that happen in a short period of time. You have to understand the Earth 4 billion years old, or 4.5 billion years old. It's a whole thing when they stand up on here. So over that time, change your clothes. Sometimes warm, sometimes cool, and there are seasons to this. Thing is that this is different. Where they go on here, that's something where they happen extremely fast and what is being compromised, that for really sweet zone. And when I say we, I talk about human beings, right? And present animal and plant life. We don't get accustomed to this least sweet zone, temperature, humidity, everything set up, and we this are like one nice sweet spot, and call it the Goldilocks spot, you know, in the story of Goldilocks where you find one bed where me just right. Well, most of us, whether from my generation and before, we exist in a pretty stable conditions. Yes, we've had hurricanes, but if you think about it, if you're my age, which I'm 53, I have never experienced a Category 5 storm. Yes, I have been around for some when they call Top Gallant, when we got floods come down because of the rain out west and so on. And yes, San Ignacio and the Twin Tongues have been flooded before, and Rancho Dolores snowball flood, and Doublehead Cabbage snowball flood, and Flowers Bank snowball flood, and Burl Boom snowball flood, and Belize City snowball flood, and yeah, we've experienced certain things. In my lifetime, the most significant natural disaster would have to be the pandemic. So, either 10 years after Hyde. So we, my generation, we've been around about 5 decades. We've relatively had predictable climate realities. Never had a drought where make we starve yet. Never had a flood where make we starve yet. So far as food, things where they grow in the ground, we never had. We've had pests, we've had infestations, we've had things happen to our crops, we've had the disease where hit the citrus thing, we've had problems in our sugar, but all in all, put it all together, it's been fairly stable. Go on, Carl. Krem, good morning. WB. Good morning. Oh. Hey, phone. Carla, bear with me, just trying to make this phone really won't be a problem. Yeah. Please try again. It's kind of like, yeah. I think the phone itself is not good again. WB, good morning.
Yes, good morning, boys.
Good morning.
Yeah, very, very interesting topic on the only catching it for the last 2 minutes, but it's science and it's kind of my street. Climate change was, I would say, 2 things to begin with. One, a lot of people don't realize that the Earth is just one of a number of planets in this one solar system that we are a part of. And really, people don't realize that there is an informed theory that, for example, Venus was very habitable at one point. You talk about the Goldilocks zone. Actually, Venus, at some point, we believe was very habitable, as well as Mars. What has happened with Venus, we believe, has been theorized, is that the very dynamics that are leading to the greenhouse effect have happened on Venus. So the whole elevation of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere that traps heat, radiation comes in, heat is generated, but it is not re-radiated back out into space in such a way that the planet remains kind of temperature neutral, it heats up. And I believe that the average temperature on Venus during the daytime is over 700 degrees Fahrenheit. And so when we talk about global warming, the term runaway global warming has been used. Natural systems have a way of kind of almost correcting themselves, but there's actually a finite fix to those mechanisms where they can get out of control. And I think that what we want to avoid when scientists and those people in the know are basically saying to us that we should not, there's a point that we should not go beyond, is you want to avoid the runaway greenhouse effect, because once it kicks in, there's really no turning back. And so, of all the crises that the Earth faces, this one is macroscopic. This one is global wide, and it's very, very serious. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would say it's a 12. But I don't think that the politics of the planet and the economics of the planet is such that we recognize that.
Yeah.
Well,
just to kind of fill you in, Brother George, just so that you understand a little bit of the background. So, first half of the show, we had a significant input from Ms. Sandra Corey and a discussion as well, dealing with the outcome from Baku, with what is dubbed the climate finance deal of $300 billion. Of which Belize was a part of those negotiations, and I think the developing countries as a bloc were trying to secure $1.3 trillion, and they got $300 billion. And we were kind of, I guess the question that was posed by Ms. Corey is what ultimately then is the take-home message from what has happened in Baku, and my view was that it means that to a great extent there has been an abandonment of trying to collectively put pressure on the major emitters of carbon dioxide, and now we have made it transactional. We want our money for where they go on. And that's not just in 2024. This is a build-up process where, yes, they've been talking about trying to keep it within 1.5, but primarily everything has been focused on make we get our money. For deal with what happened to we, and then we quarrel about whether the money good enough or whether the money start to come or whatever it is. But it's almost as if though we have resigned ourselves to the worst outcome of not being able to, at the very least, keeping the rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And the science is, as you have pointed out, Brother George, the science is the science. One of the articles I read last week points out, listen, what people don't understand is when we say tipping point is because once we go past the tipping point, what will happen is no longer the result of what man is doing. What man has to do after that doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with what these countries are emitting anymore. It's just going to be the earth itself is then going to start to do its own thing, and you can't stop that. You can't stop the Amazon becoming a savanna. You can't stop the glaciers from going and melting into the oceans. You can't stop. These things will now just start to do their own things. And the consequences of all of that will not be bore proportionately. This is not some kind of every human being and every country will face the same level of consequences. We exist, we live. Belize exists in the area upon the planet where one get the worst. And when you say the worst, unfortunately, when you say the worst, it happen next year. The minute you said 25 years, we done. We signed off for that. That's 25 years. So because for we ability to think about being concerned about something when at 25 years period, when today when I had to face and have my own hardship where my bill will have to pay before 5 this evening, that all I could put on my bandwidth, and I understand that. Problem with that is that 25 years so long. In fact, December we want to celebrate 25 years at WUB. I can tell you I can recall the very first morning I did WUB. It's 25 years is in the twinkling of an eye, sadly. You're talking about our children will be experiencing and it will be the norm. The norm will be hardship. The norm will be struggle to just survive, like like just being able to deal with water and food and being able to not get flooded out, knocked down by hurricane after hurricane. Like, we have to understand that these scenarios are not Hollywood movies. They are real. Go ahead, Brother George.
Yeah, Mose, well, you talk about macro, and I'm kind of not informed on the blow-by-blow of the climate change conversation. But the big picture is that at some point, there's a certain quantum of funds that are needed from whatever source. Let me say the global community needs to collectively get together to understand that this can't be with addressing. A certain quantum of fund has to be raised globally to kind of stave off and to, as it were, manage this crisis. And I don't know that the politics, and I'm saying what the politics of it is that we live on a globe where a part of the dominant politics of it is sort of unfettered consumerism. Unfettered consumerism. When you look, for example, at the capitalist model, it's basically saying, let us consume to make profit, to make profit, to make profit. But you live on a finite planet. And a lot of the consumption is obviously, the consumption really is actually supported by the combustion of carbon-based fuel, and it finds itself in the atmosphere. So I think that unless and until the politics of it kind of change to say, listen, this rhetoric of carbon footprint has to be more than just talking points at COP. I think that it has to be treated with by nation states, and it has to be treated with at the UN with the utmost gravity. Because, you know, as I said earlier, there's no coming back from this. And I don't know that that the politics of the globe is such that people recognize the gravity of it. We do know, for example, Mose, that a right-wing administration has been gone into power in the largest democracy on the planet. The United States has 4% of the world population and generates about 25% of the world's GDP. And the politics of the right wing is such that it's business as usual. And so I don't know, Mose, and perhaps I should ask you, and I know you permit me to ask you, do you see any bright spots in this, Mose?
No, yeah, one of the things, you know, one of the things I mentioned my lack of any optimism. I had the distinct privilege and fortune to have attended a number of these COPs, so I was there in person. I was able to experience the play-by-play of how it works. It was a tremendous opportunity. It was enlightening, but it also left me completely convinced that this was not how we are not capable. And when I say we, as a species, we are not capable of turning down, using your term, consumption. The rich countries, forget right wing, left wing. The fact is that it's a remarkable. It would be a remarkable achievement for people to collectively say, we are going to essentially put a ceiling on our growth and a ceiling on the quality of life that we are enjoying, which the rich countries would have to do. When they talk about limiting, as presently constructed, limiting fossil fuel and limiting production and consumption requires them to not be so rich and not to, you know, you have a case where Elon Musk, I think, is reported to very soon to become the world's first trillionaire. Like, to say we are not going to continue to drill so that your coastal communities don't get flooded out, like, to hell with you, no. we want still to build with skyscrapers. We are still to build with bunkers. You know, that's the new fad for rich people, is to build your doomsday bunker, because they are preparing for scenarios. They are preparing for what is to come. Now the question is, and I think the one that we have to confront, and I think that Ms. Correa addressed this morning by the judge, is for us to have moral credibility, making adjustment has to begin with us. She referenced the fact that she asked me what would be the most expensive vehicle that I've seen in Belize, and I said, well, I think the most expensive vehicle that I see around here is the Land Cruiser, and I think it's somewhere around $150,000, and it's a great number of those vehicles. And she was making the point that to produce one of those vehicles requires, even if we are not the ones that have the factories, we are demanding the things that the factories build that produce the carbon dioxide that then impacts us. So we are still complicit to what is going on. And for us to speak to these countries, what's required of countries like Belize is for us to start to internalize and reflect what it is we are demanding of them to do. To say you have to curtail, then we have to be living a life of curtailing. I think that's, if I'm able to just kind of condense.
I think the tragedy is, it's like the planet is obviously our house. In the great Leander, that is, our planet is our house in a sense, collectively our house. And the house is on fire. And the tragedy is that we do not see the fire. It's kind of insidious and it's silent. But there's a burn going on, and it's not necessarily a slow burn. We are near the tipping point, but nobody's seeing, well, I would say nobody. I think that really the scientific community and the conservation community are well aware of where we are. But I think that just the public hears about global warming, and I think there's almost a kind of collective expectation that there'll be a gun. You know, when you start a 100-meter sprint, somebody pulls the trigger on a little gun. I think that the way that I get it sometimes is that people are waiting for somebody to say, climate change is not happening. Well, it's actually been going on. And I think that without people understanding that it's going on and it's unfolding, people are not making the adjustments in their lives, either the individual, the community, the nation state, and obviously collectively. It's not happening. So I don't know, Mose, perhaps when you look at it, there's about 21 trillion stars in the known universe. And there's no doubt that there has been a reality like this before. And it's probably in the past, and it's probably...
I don't go in way out there, but George. I stay right up on what is called the pale blue. I stay right up on the pale blue dot, and I just...
You know, this is almost a fate. Maybe this fate is something that has happened before. It is more than likely happened, and the tragedy...
So then the question is...
This is avoidable.
The question is,
it's avoidable.
We are allegedly the species, the highest level of intelligence on planet Earth. I'm speaking about human beings. We might have the intelligence to observe and interpret and to discern things that we observe. Apparently we lack the wisdom and the ability to course correct based on what it is our intelligence is able to show us, that our fleshly desires overpowers what we can cognitively see and observe, and see that we need to do certain things, but what we want dictates, and that's not. That kind of rough. But the reality is that when you talk about, when you see cutting back on carbon dioxide production, what you're talking about is cutting back on lifestyle and level of luxuries and richness that these countries have been able to enjoy. And we were betting our future and our stability on people being able to make such a sacrifice. And nobody in China will make that sacrifice. Nobody in India make that sacrifice. Nobody in America make that sacrifice. So then anybody in the Belize make that sacrifice. And what do we do insofar as what our expectations of our leaders as to what percentage of our resources are going to be used to prepare and to kind of lessen the blow that our children will have to deal with. We will deal with it while we are still here, but our children will get the worst. They will experience a belief that you and I, their existence will be very different from the one that you and I had. When you called, I was just making the case that relatively speaking, the five decades or so, when you think about natural disasters, when we think about real, things that cause widespread havoc, we've had a very stable time. The likelihood that the next 50 years will be anything like this is very, 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 very unlikely. Very remote. I have to go to break, Brother George. Thanks for the call.
All right, sir.
We take a break and come back. We got to get out of here. We leave on our last break. We got to thank you listening, watching, calling to the people who make it work behind the scene. Larry G at Crumb Radio, at XTV The Glue, Mr. Cliff Lewis, and in the control room this morning, Alexi Belay. Stand strong, stand firm. For now, we're gone to our last.
Wake up, Billy's, wake